Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is BGFH, and I am back for a little bonus video today. I thought about doing this for my regular Wednesday video, but I'm like, you know what? I can be timely too, and get the kind of some of my thoughts out there while while everyone else is talking about it. Of course, I am back to talk about Apple's September 2017 iPhone event, or actually I'll just call it their September event because it was more than just iPhone. Yeah, they talked about a lot of different stuff here today, and I'm going to just kind of give my thoughts on it. I'm going to hopefully try to make this a little bit of a shorter video. Even though there was a lot covered, like I said, this isn't where you would go to get your comprehensive, every little tidbit. But this is just kind of my thoughts, my perspective on it, both just as a general user, and a little throw some accessibility stuff in there too, of course. But before we do that, I just want to kind of give you guys a quick couple of channel updates and let you know what we're looking at here. Although actually, I gotta do a little bit with. Oh, interesting. Okay, with this hill. We are looking at, we're in our Minecraft server world, or server map here. And for those, I know I've picked up a lot of viewers in the last 6 months to a year. And believe it or not, this channel actually got started. Partly to kind of show off some Minecraft stuff, because it's funny, like I said, my friend and I, Jawbreaker, he's been on some co-op game videos. If you check out the Minecraft co-op list, there's a co-op Minecraft tour list. There's another experimental Minecraft thingy that we did for a short while. We did some co-op games, and he's been on the channel a little bit. Not for a while, but he's been around. But if I mention Jawbreaker, that's what I'm talking about. But we've been doing iterations of this server now for, I don't know, 4 years or better. It's just a blur. But yeah, I mean, the channel actually started with us looking, before we were playing on our own, private desktop maps, and we're like, oh, I want to show you this thing that I made, and we were emailing stuff back and forth. And as you can tell, Minecraft maps, they get a little bit big after a little while and just got really unwieldy. And we were like, it'd actually be fun to play together. So, we've done different things with different server. Like Jawbreaker had it set up where we had a server company for a little while. I forget even who it was through. Now we're just doing an official Minecraft realm, because it's been a while since we've actually played Minecraft. But he had a copy of it still, thankfully. Thank God, because there's a lot of cool work here. And so, yeah, we just kind of started putzing around with Minecraft again. And so since I figured, this is just a nice relaxing video to talk about some stuff, I just wanted to show you guys, especially a lot of you newer viewers, a little bit, give you guys a little sneak peek of what is on our server. Everything we've made here is pretty much done by myself or Jawbreaker, and I'm going to just kind of walk through a little bit of areas while I talk about Apple's events, just so you guys have something interesting to look at. And like I said, if you are new to the channel, or even if you missed out the first time, like I said, I've got the Minecraft Castle tours. I have a series of those. I have a Crater City tour, which I'll show you at least a glimpse of today, just so you can just kind of see and maybe get interested. And then we've got the co-op stuff, and like he's done, the scale of what Jawbreaker has done is just crazy. You can kind of get a glimpse of it over there through the fog. But yeah, so anyway, if you want, yeah, like I said, we kind of go through each of these different areas, and we talk about what they're like, what it took to build them, and kind of where we got some of our inspiration. And it's just a really fun thing to do. So we're in creative mode, so I'm just flying around right now. I'm gonna go down to ground level here, and we'll just explore our little castle-esque area for a little bit. So that's that. That's what we're looking at here. Now, as far as the channel updates, basically, there's a lot of stuff coming to the channel. Believe it or not, I have a lot of things planned for the month of October. You know, horror games are probably the easiest holiday to do for Halloween just because there are so many horror games. And I've built up quite a library of. There's been an actual couple game videos I've recorded ages ago and I'm sitting on that I figure I'll just, you know what, okay, it's close enough, I'll wait for October. Or maybe even a little bit before because I have so many. We may start a little bit early in September. But the cool part of it is that there actually is a decent number of mainstream games, VR content, but believe it or not, this year there's actually quite a few accessible games that could fall under the interesting kind of Halloween spooky horror categories. So there's some kind of neat stuff to look out for there. So you're gonna be, you guys are going to get to see a lot of stuff there. So I've got a lot of other content ready to go. There's, of course, the fall season being the time where there are just oodles and oodles of games coming out. Nowhere near time to play them all. But there's a few key games that I'm really interested in. So things like South Park, not the Stick of Truth. South Park, Fractured But Whole, which is it's just a funny thing to say. Yes, the Fractured Butthole. However you say it. But that I'm looking forward to. I did a full Let's Play of the Stick of Truth on the channel already. If you guys want to check that out. For somebody who doesn't like turn-based games traditionally, I actually really enjoyed the Stick of Truth. Really funny game. Really dumb, but really funny. So there's that. And Wolfenstein 2, definitely looking forward to that. I've already taken a look at the other Wolfenstein games on the channel, be it Wolf 3D or the recent remake, New Order, Old Blood, those kinds of things. So there's that. Probably won't be able to cover Mario Odyssey just because I don't have any hardware device to capture consoles at the moment. But, I'll probably talk about it at least in my end of year stuff. So trust me, there's plenty of things to come. Some more hardware stuff, some more geeky stuff. You never know what you're going to find. So stay tuned for all that. And again, thanks to everybody who has joined and subscribed to the channel. Where last I looked, I think we're a little bit over 800 subscribers, and we're actually kind of still maintaining a decent clip. We've got few months of the year, 3 months of the year or so, 3.5 months. I don't want to say, but it would be really, really amazing if we actually broke 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2017. That would be really crazy. But the funny thing is, I think it could almost be doable. So, share it with your friends and anyone who you think might be interested in the channel, please. And hope you guys enjoy it. One other update is I was also, if you follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, you may have also recently saw a tweet last weekend, and I'll probably do another reminder probably today or tomorrow. I was actually recently invited onto the Blind Bargains podcast to talk with them on an episode all about gaming and virtual reality. So we mainly talked about gaming, but they wanted to get my perspective on VR, being one of the probably few people, few low vision users who is actually, pretty heavy into virtual reality. Although, like I said in another video, I do know that there's actually a low vision VR developer whom I've talked to also on Twitter briefly. So it's pretty awesome to see that. But yeah, check out Blind Bargains Cast 113. That is where you will find me, Mr. Steinkamp, and Mike Fair, I think it is. Fair, I hope I'm saying that right. And we just talk for about an hour or better on a whole bunch of cool gaming and technology and VR stuff. It was pretty fun. love to do it again. Thanks for the opportunity. Go check them out. And like I said, hopefully maybe some of you guys have come to the channel from that episode. I don't know, but if you have, yeah, thanks for checking it out. Thanks for checking out the channel. And yeah, enough rambling. Let's chat a little bit about the Apple September keynote as I'm walking through my nice little harbor part of my village area. So the funny, I mean, the funny thing about these events is that, you know, most of what they announced, except for physically showing off the devices, like the final iterations of them, we pretty much knew everything. I mean, I know Apple touts secrecy, but especially the last couple of years, man, you know, if they wanted to, they could be a little bit more careful about secrecy. I mean, it was leaking like a sieve. We knew most of this stuff like probably weeks, if not months ago. So we knew a lot about the stuff, and I think it would have even been, I think it probably would have been either like more of an amazing event had we not known, what they were going to announce. But we, you know, they covered a lot of different things. So this was their first show in the Steve Jobs Theater, part of their crazy new spaceship campus, which they kind of showed a little bit of footage of in the intro video. The whole thing started with this kind of video and audio tribute. They started the session with just this black screen that was talking about, or where Steve Jobs was actually talking about some things. And it was, you know, and then they did a nice little tribute to the new area and Steve Jobs himself. I mean, because of course, you know, being the Apple founder and everything. So they did a nice little tribute to him. Talked a little bit about their campus, their theater, yada yada. Yeah, so that was a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but they did that. So they, you know, after the intros, they really just kind of got right into it because they had a lot of hardware and stuff to talk about. Of course, software-wise, you know, everything is getting a fall update. iOS 11 is coming on the 19th, September 19th. Mac OS, I want to say, is the 25th, and I think watchOS might be the 19th. Or actually, that might be the 22nd. I forget the watchOS 4. So everything, you know, tvOS, everything is getting an update naturally around the same time, as it usually does this time of year. So that was not surprising at all. I myself, I haven't said anything on Twitter or the channel just because of NDA things. Even though it's a public beta and everyone could potentially have access to this, I don't know that there's, you know, there still might be some NDA, you know, confidentiality stuff, so I really didn't want to talk about it much. I have been running the iOS 11 beta on my iPad Pro for the last few months now, so I've already had kind of a bit of a sneak peek at it, and there are some cool stuff in there, and some stuff that'll actually really impact the way I do things, and especially even for my channel, might be kind of interesting to play with. So yeah, I'll definitely talk more about that at some point later. But they kind of went right into it with the watch, the Apple Watch. Now, I've always been intrigued about smartwatches, but you know, it's kind of this thing of like, do I really want to pay $300, $400, $500 for something that I'm just going to wear on my wrist, and I don't know how much actual functionality I'm going to get out of it? My opinion has kind of changed a little bit over the last couple of years because I've had a few coworkers who have had one. I've seen a couple of them. You know, I've seen some of the apps and some of the fitness stuff really kind of come out a little bit more. So I'm actually genuinely more interested in the idea and the functionality of what a smartwatch could do. And of course, Apple's being the main one that is accessible via speech, via voiceover. And yeah, I mean, I've been trying over the last, especially the last year and a half, I've been really trying to take getting some exercise more seriously. Because I'm just like, I'm a nerd. I'm like, I don't really like working out and things like that. But I've gotta be more in shape. I'm not really in great shape at all. Definitely need to, maybe lose a few pounds, shall we say. Um, so I'm interested in the tracking a bit of it, especially like, how much did I walk? How much did I do during this activity or whatever? So I'm interested in that, but I'm also interested in some of the, quick check a notification here, or quick, do something useful without needing to take my phone out of my pocket. So, or not even taking my phone with me per se. Maybe I want to just go for a walk, and maybe I want to listen to some tunes or a podcast or something. All that kind of stuff would be really kind of handy, I got to admit. And with the Apple Watch Series 3, we are getting LTE, because the other thing with the original versions of the Apple Watch is that you always had to have it really right nearby your iPhone in order for it to really be really useful. It couldn't really do much on its own. You might be able to dump a few songs over to it. You might be able to, the fitness stuff you can probably track mostly, but it always had to sync back to the watch. Well, the Series 3 now does come in a regular version for $329 and a LTE version that's been rumored for the last several months. Actually, I'm kind of tired of hearing about it, but yes, it is true. For basically $400 for the entry level, the starting price. Depending on what bands and what type you want to get, the steel versus the metal versus the ceramic, all that kind of jazz. But so basically, $329 to $499 is what you're going to pay for the Series 3. Now they are marking the Series 1, which is basically the souped up version of the original. So it sounds like the Series 2, they're just axing all together. And because remember last year, the Series 1 was basically like the Series 2. You had the same processor, the same shell, but it didn't have some of the like waterproofing and a couple other odds and ends. There was a couple other limitations I don't even remember. I used to know, but I forgot. So they're basically just getting rid of the Series 2. It looks like giving you the original as the updated original, because the Series 1 is not the actual first iteration. It's like a 1.5 version in between 1 and 2. That's not confusing at all. But and then for your essentially what would be the 2 is where you're getting your non-LTE version of the 3. Got that? So basically you got your Series 1, your Series 3 with no LTE, and then your actual LTE model. So believe it or not, I am actually really contemplating getting the Series 3 LTE model. Especially as more apps probably come out for it, because they are useful. It's going to have a faster processor, of course. It's got a lot of updated fitness things, and especially like, heart rate monitoring. They talked a lot about that. So that'll be good. But just being able to untether from the phone, I actually just, contacted Google Music, because I was looking and it didn't look like, I use Google Music all the time. Absolutely love it. I don't use Apple Music. But, I would love to have that on the Apple Watch, but it doesn't look like they have it. So I'm like, hey, you guys should really, now that you can especially untether, we would love to see that. I mean, a friend of mine too, he's like, oh, that would be a killer feature. If they had that, I would probably just go pre-order one right now. Speaking of pre-ordering, you can pre-order it on the 15th, which I believe is Friday this week. So you can pre-order it pretty soon. It's going to ship on the 22nd, I believe. So yeah, within the next week or two, depending on availability, assuming you can actually get in to pre-order yours, don't have to wait very long. And I'm, like I said, very strongly considering buying the Series 3. Now, of course, if you get the LTE version, I don't know what it costs per carrier, but all the four major carriers in the US do support it. So Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, and AT&T all support it. Now you are going to have to, it uses your same phone number as your iPhone, but it does require like a extended accessory data plan, probably similar to like if you had an LTE iPad or something, which I've never had. But if you're probably going to have to pay anywhere from whatever, 5, 10, 15 bucks. I don't know what each of the carriers is. I was trying to find that out, do some research this afternoon for Verizon, and I don't know because it could be just $5 a month, and the Apple said there may be some deals from carriers too. So God only knows, but even 5, 10 bucks a month, I wouldn't feel too bad about that. 20 bucks I think might be a bit high. So I'm hoping to God that it's going to be between 5 and 10. And I don't know what kind of data, like data caps they're going to be, because right now I have an unlimited phone plan through Verizon. But that's the stupidest thing, like with all these mobile carriers, like, well, you have your regular plan, but that's technically, it's unlimited, but technically it isn't, because we throttle the hell out of you if you get a certain, if you use so much data. And then on top of that, if you actually use your phone as a hotspot, God forbid, or you get a hardware access point device or a hotspot device, then you have like this weird data cap on that's essentially using the same data as your damn phone plan, but they got to milk you for as much money as they can. So you really got to watch and make sure that you don't get your data cap stuff there. So I'm going to try to do a little bit more research tomorrow and see if I can figure out my specific needs. But like, as I just want to basically say, if you are interested in an LTE version of the Apple Watch, talk to your carrier, do your due diligence, and figure out, because there are going to be a little bit of a hidden cost. You're going to have your monthly data plan for that aspect of it, unless you just want to forego the LTE altogether and just get a regular Apple Watch. So there is that thing to consider, and some people just don't consider that kind of thing, and then they're like, but I thought I could get it, So I just want to, like I said, make you guys aware of that, that there is that aspect of the watch to consider should you want the LTE version. So we've got all that kind of stuff. The Apple Watch, that, funny enough, I was really looking forward to the new iPhone before the conference, and based on what I heard. But as we get to the phone, I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about the new phone, and I have not yet decided whether I want to get a new phone or not. So after the Apple Watch and watchOS 4, which is also coming this month, then they moved over to the Apple TV and the Apple TV 4K edition, because of course everything is going 4K. So they're going to have 4K content. Now, the nice thing, admittedly, that they did announce is that if you bought some of these HD movies already, you will get the upgraded 4K versions at no extra charge, which is actually a really nice deal if you are in the Apple media ecosystem. So kudos to them for that. Also, they are charging the same price as the regular HD movies for the 4K ones, because I know I read some stories earlier, like this week and last week, about, they want to, the not publishers, the studios, they want basically to charge basically for more for the 4K versus the regular, and Apple was kind of in a war about that. And so, hey, good on them for keeping prices manageable. That's great. So it's going to have 4K, it's going to have HDR, which is high dynamic range lighting, which it's hard to explain, but it's kind of this thing of like where think about like when you go in, like you're outside and it's really bright, or you're inside and it's really dark, and you transition from one to another, and it kind of gets like super bright or whatever, and then your eyes kind of adjust either way. I mean, it's a very, very rough description of how that works, but it's going to support that. It's faster processor, all that kind of stuff. I didn't pay as much attention to that simply because I don't have a 4K. I don't have a 4K TV. Oh, they talked about a lot of HD screensavers. I was joking on Twitter. Where are the flying toasters? Welcome back to 1995. I know the other one had screensavers too, but I just think it's funny that one of their selling points is HD screensavers. All right, sure, I guess. But, I don't have a 4K TV, nor do I intend to get one anytime soon. I just bought a new HD TV 2-3 years ago now, and I'm totally fine with it. And actually, I don't even use my TV all that much, except for a little bit of media and a little bit of gaming. I do most stuff on my tablet or my phone, to be honest with you, these days. So, the 4K just didn't really do it really for me. It's like, it's fine. If you have a 4K TV, you can take advantage of it. Great. They announced some sports partnerships. Not quite sure the extent to what those are going to be, but they announced some of those. They got a new game called Sky for the Apple TV and iOS that's coming out this winter. Kind of looks like a neat thing. It's, if you remember Journey from that game company, or Flower and those kind of games. I mean, they're beautiful games. Journey, if I could record a video of that for you guys, I would, because that game, the Journey, is incredibly beautiful looking. It's just a really neat game. Really like it. Yeah, but that's really the Apple TV stuff. Then we get into the phone and iOS. The funny thing is, I don't think they mentioned. I'm really trying to rack my brain here. I don't think they actually mentioned the Mac once. I don't remember if I heard the word Mac. Period. This was all about portable devices: Apple TV, Apple Watch, and iPhone. So, as suspected, we have 3 models coming out this year. Not 2 isn't enough. We have 3 this time. We have the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus, which is your traditional upgrade to your, 6 Plus, 7 Plus. You got a 4.7 and a 5.5 inch. And basically, you got an upgraded processor, upgraded camera, some more image stabilization stuff on the Plus. You finally have the True Tone display that was in the smaller, newer iPad Pros that they released after I got mine, of course. So mine doesn't have the True Tone display. That one came out like 6 months later. But so you've got a True Tone display. You've got, like I said, faster processor, better GPU. And there's some other stuff that's better, I guess, for processing for the augmented reality support that is coming in iOS 11, which I'm genuinely really interested in playing with. I've heard of a few apps already that have some both fun and useful uses. I'm really interested in. There's a AR zombie game that looked really cool. I've heard of things like IKEA, where you could look at their look at a virtual thing, and you move it in your apartment, and it'll that's what that would look like here. I mean, that's a really useful. I could see all kinds of appliance and furniture stores or things like that using that kind of a thing. I mean, they showed a couple about looking at constellations in the sky. They did 2 or 3 different examples. There was a game. There was I'm trying to remember some of the non-gaming ones. Oh, the baseball one where you look down at the field supposedly, and like you point it at a player and you can get their stats live or something like that. So that, there's some interesting uses, and thinking Apple, I'm betting this is going to be accessible. That's the games might not be, but potentially some of the data stuff could be. Again, I talked about in another video, after I kind of had some time to settle after WWDC, originally, like, their presentation for WWDC really didn't do it for me. iOS 11, like, meh, I didn't really care. But the more I thought about augmented reality, I kind of got into it because, especially look at Seeing AI, look at Identify. Check those app videos out if you haven't on my channel because they're doing some pretty awesome work. Seeing AI, of course, being this multi-tool thing for blind and low vision users that uses a camera. I use that instant text recognition mode fairly regularly, and it actually works really well for games. I've been using that actually quite a bit. And Identify, if you need to identify objects, Identify, ending with an I, IDENTIFI, check that video out and go get the app. They're both free. And they're doing some really neat stuff. Imagine being in a mall and be like, oh, I wonder what store I'm in front of. Maybe based on sort of either location, based on map data, or if they actually have beacons eventually. Just being able to like, oh, I know I'm in front of this store, that could be really cool. Or finding your seat in a sporting event or a concert, like, oh, where do I go? All kinds of stuff like that. So that could be really fun. And I really am curious to see, once iOS launches on the 19th, I'm curious to see what types of augmented reality apps are going to be at launch or shortly thereafter. There's really not a lot more to talk about as far as the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. If you have an iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, I really wouldn't recommend upgrading to the 8. I mean, yeah, it's faster, but I don't know that it would be worth jumping from the 7 to the 8. If you have a 6 series, then you might consider it. I don't know how, Apple's devices at least are supported pretty well for a couple of years after they're out. But, yeah, I mean, I have a work iPhone 6 Plus, and it's starting to run a little bit slower. I'm not sure what iOS 11 is going to do to it, so we'll find out, but we'll see with that. But if you're, especially if you have a 5 series, dear God, upgrade, because you're missing out on some of the functionality of the last couple of years, and it'll just run a lot better, especially if you're using some of these camera apps. I think you'll really like some of that. What we're in right now is if you want to learn more about this amazing place that he's still modifying just recently, this is Jawbreaker's project. He made this big spawn area. I call it the stadium because it looks like a stadium, but just with some really cool stuff. And we talk a lot about this. We used to look at it more in detail in our Minecraft co-op tour videos. So we're just going to beeline through here, and we're going to go over and we'll wander through my other project area. This is really cool. I'm really proud of my castle. What do we call it? Crater City or Crater Lake, whatever. Skyscraper Village. Tower Town. So the idea behind this this whole tower is we had this round crater, and we wanted to use it. I'm like, what would happen? I want to build with the restriction to say, I want to build a city where everything had to be contained within this round crater. So I'm going to basically make all the general needs of a city in these towers. That's the original, and again, I kind of go through this in a lot more detail in my tour videos. But so we've got like a city hall building in the middle. We got a school, a shopping center, apartments, a casino, entertainment area, hotel, a hospital, and a kind of a courtroom slash police station slash prison. The prison, the ones on the left side, the hospital, the courtroom building, and the casino are by far my favorite because I was just getting really. We got more new blocks in Minecraft, and we had. I was getting better at just building more intricately, and I'm really proud of those buildings. So check that out if you want to learn more specifically. But we're just going to walk through some of my Tower City. So yeah, if you have an iPhone 5 or 6, then I would maybe consider going up to the 8. If you're low vision, I would maybe consider, if you're totally blind, I know a lot of people don't like the bigger phone. They want a little bit of smaller device, less screen real estate to work with. Even I would say if you really want a little bit more battery life, the plus size models do typically have that a little bit more. So you have a little bit battery life there. But for low vision, because of like magnification, I use my phone as a CCTV almost on a daily basis. So yeah, I would never go back to the smaller phone again just because I love the 5.5 inch screen. Absolutely love it. So you might, if you're low vision, I would maybe definitely check out the plus size, either the 7 Plus if you wanted to get a little bit cheaper, or the 8 Plus. And they pretty much keep the design of the 7. So you still have a physical home button, well, the capacitive home button, not a physical button anymore. But you still have that. You still have all your regular stuff that you would have, like your Touch ID and everything. So there's not a whole lot else to say about the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus, Nice improvements, but, not altogether unexpected. Now we come to probably their finale, their one more thing, as it were. And that of course is the iPhone X. I like to call it the iPhone X because X sounds much cooler, but it's actually called the iPhone 10 with an X, so it's not 10. It actually is X, the Roman numeral, basically. The iPhone 10 is quite a bit different. So it's basically the plus size form factor, but the design of the thing has been completely changed. The home button is gone. In order to use Siri and stuff like that, you use the side button. You double tap the side button, apparently. To unlock it, you don't have Touch ID anymore. Instead, you have this new Face ID system where you takes a picture of your face. And I did read something a little bit about accessibility. It was funny, like right away you saw, a lot of blind people going, "Oh my God, this sucks! It's not going to be accessible. Where's the home button? How am I going to do this picture stuff?" I'm not worried about it, because I know, every time we've thought, "Oh, how is this going to work accessibly?" Especially from once the iPhone started to implement it, the TV has been accessible, the watch has been accessible. I have no worries that the new iPhone, the iPhone 10, it'll be accessible. And they basically said they're going to do the same thing or a similar thing to when you take a picture now with your iPhone, where it says, "Oh, hey, there's one head," or it'll probably guide. But this one might be a little bit more where it'll guide you. It'll guide you into how to use or how to take your picture, and then how to oh, you're not in frame enough to unlock it properly. So I'm not worried about that. That being said, I mean, yeah, the Face ID is okay. And originally I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? Because a lot of times I look at my phone but I don't unlock it because I either look at a notification. Most of the time I look at the time, and then I don't unlock it. I just go, oh, okay, there's the time, or there's a notification, or what have you. But apparently the way it works is it recognizes your face, but it doesn't actually unlock until you flick up from the bottom of the screen, or whatever the voiceover equivalent is going to be for that. Now, on the face of the phone, the main difference is that they've gotten rid of most of the bezels, the top and bottom bezels. Like the current iPhones, the one thing that I would say, as much as I like them, I wish there wasn't quite so much non-screen part of the phone. You know, there's a lot of bezel at the top and at the bottom. So there's that, and I like the idea of a more edge-to-edge type of display. And again, like everyone was suspecting, we're getting OLED technology, or Super OLED, I think it's called. They had to put their own spin on it. It can't just be industry standard technology. It's got to be OLED or Super OLED. We invented this new cool thing, like Retina's a thing because it is, I guess. But let me tell you, as a low vision user, like, to me right now, if you are a totally blind user, unless you just want the whiz-bang, just everything new whiz-bang just because, I don't really see much of a need. If you're thinking about upgrading from like a 5 or a 6 series, 6 model, I don't really see much of a need to go to the X or to the 10 unless you, like I said, unless you really, really want to spend a lot of money and to, like I said, have all the whiz-bang features. But if you're low vision, again, the bigger screen is going to be helpful. And I've seen OLED tablets, I've seen OLED laptops, I've seen a couple of OLED smartphones, and let me tell you, OLED is damn nice looking, man. It is sharp. The thing with OLED is that the cool thing is, like, you have such sharp and good contrasted colors, because OLED, only the parts of the screen that need to be lit up are lit up. So again, if I have a lot of black on my screen, unlike an LCD, even on an LCD screen, I have to kind of at least let it glow a little bit to get the black color. If I'm using an OLED screen, the screen for the black areas don't even have to turn on. So again, if I'm using like a dark mode or a dark app, I can save a lot of battery potentially, because I don't have to power a decent chunk of that screen. Only the pixels that are lighter colors actually have to be turned on. So between the battery savings and the crispness, the sharpness, I mean, it's just, OLED is, they use OLED in a lot of the VR stuff, like the Oculus Rift, that uses OLED lenses, screens. So, I mean, it's visually, it's a really, really nice looking technology. And that was honestly what I was most interested in, as far as the aspect of the new iPhone that people were rumoring for the longest time. So the way it works, the weird thing about the screen on the iPhone 10 is that there's not really much bezel. You get rid of the home button, and on the top you still are going to have your little cameras, but they call, what people refer to as ears, because the screen doesn't go all the way to the top of your phone in the middle. It does in the corners, so they kind of stick up. Think of like cat ears or something like that. Because like in the middle you have your, like your camera, your speaker, that kind of a thing. So they can't really put a screen there, but they can put like your little like notifications or your like battery status and sort of things off on either side. So that's where they kind of get this ears concept, as we look at the nice, cool, opulent, one of my favorite rooms of this town, the mayor's office. This just ridiculously, like, this is like a Mr. Burns office, man. Look at this. There's gold and blue and just ridiculous top of the tower. I had to go up here. But yeah. So the OLED screen is going to be like, that is the main draw to me. They're having better cameras again. You know, everything's going like 12 megapixel. The interesting thing about the cameras on the iPhone 10 is that both cameras, you know, like your 6 Plus, 7 Plus, they've had two cameras on them, but only one of the lenses has had image stabilization, but they're adding that to both cameras on the 10. And just, you know, a lot of your gestures are going to have to change because of the lack of a home button. You know, so they showed going in and out of an app. They showed using the task switcher. They showed, you know, closing apps, or they showed, like I said, launching Siri. And with the new phone, it's got a powerful enough processor that Siri actually speaks now. Or no, never mind. I was talking about the watch. The watch, actually, Siri speaks now. That was one thing I forgot to mention about the new Series 3 Apple Watch, is it can talk now instead of just being text. But, you know, they did show, like, how to launch Siri. And, of course, just like Touch ID, your facial ID can be used for Apple Pay and that kind of stuff as well. So, you know, I don't necessarily know what the voiceover equivalent gestures are going to be, because, you know, I'm guessing some of the stuff will be like, okay, swiping down, or, you know, swiping up with 3 fingers might bring up the, you know, might unlock it. Or maybe it just will work with 1 finger. I'm sure there's going to be some variation, but I know it's going to work. Like I said, I saw on Twitter earlier today that some people are already freaking out, like, oh, this isn't going to be accessible. Is this going to work? Don't worry about it, because, you know, even look at today, if, you know, okay, this is the wild new design, axing the home button. They axed the headphone jack. These devices are going to have Bluetooth 5.0, so they're already implementing that. But the thing is that, you know, that next year that's their ultimate goal, is you may have this last iteration of the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, but once that's gone, I'm guessing that if this works out and they tweak it a little bit, this is probably going to be your iteration, your new form factor of an iPhone in the next year or two. So it's, you know, we're going to have to get used to it. You know, I know people don't like change, but, you know, just like anything else, we'll figure it out. And Apple has proven in the last decade that, you know, everything that they've done has been, their accessibility has been pretty good. So, like I said, I'm not too worried about it. The only kind of misstep that I can really remember or think of, which was actually really kind of nasty, and I'm hoping they learned from it, was the time that was it iOS 9? I think it was. There was an iOS update a couple year or two ago that broke Braille support if you had certain displays. I think it was HIMS displays, like your Braille Edge and U2 and things like that. Like if you had a HIMS device, it basically broke Braille support for like a point release or two. So that was a big no-no, but hopefully they've learned from that mistake and that won't happen again. Knock on wood, but hopefully it won't happen again. But other than that, like I said, there's no reason, at least lately, that I've, you know, and Tim Cook has actually talked about it. He's mentioned accessibility at conferences or during interviews. Like, I don't doubt their commitment to it. I'm not worried about that. So it's going to be different, but it's just something that, you know, we're gonna get used to. So not too worried about that. It will be different gestures. And so as far as the iPhone 10, I just don't know. Like, I'm really interested in the OLED screen just because that works. I mean, it's just going to look great. The starting price of the iPhone 10 is $1,000, and going up to about $1,200 if you want the 256 gig version, which is expensive. But I mean, as much, see, and I love the tweet that I saw earlier today. Someone also put it in good perspective, and I forget who it was, but kudos. They go, people who are, shocked and complaining about the $1,000 iPhone 10 clearly don't know the cost of assistive technology, do they? And I kind of laughed and went, yeah, you're right. I mean, you can get basically a lesser functioning device, but just because it has Braille in it, you're looking at $7,000. So for basically the same type of functionality, if not less, than what's in an iPhone. And when you're not buying a phone, you're buying a handheld computer that is actually pretty damn amazing. Just think about the things that we can do in the palm of our hand. We have an infinite library of books, be it print or audio or whatever. You have an infinite music library via streaming and purchase. We have instant video created, movies and television shows from a whole bunch of different places like Amazon and iTunes and Google Music. We have, and then YouTube, homegrown videos like my channel, or millions of others. We can independently, like navigation. We can recognize money or images or have text read aloud, use it as a magnifier. Like, just the assistive technology type of needs alone that you can hold in the palm of your hand. Honestly, when you think about it that way, $1,000 doesn't really seem that bad. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of sticker shock. But as much as I use my phone every single day, okay, it's a little bit more expensive than the $650, $750 of the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. But if it's something that I'm really gonna, like the clarity of that screen and better battery life and other few upgrades to it, I don't know that it's really that bad of a deal, to be honest with you. I just don't know. Like, there's not a whole lot. Like, I have an iPhone 7 Plus, so it's last year's generation. Other than the OLED screen, and I know it's going to have better cameras, and I do record a decent number of videos, hardware reviews and things like that for the channel using my iPhone camera, so that would be useful. But I mean, I can't really complain about the quality of videos taken by my iPhone 7 Plus. So again, I don't know. One of the main things that might settle this a little bit more, and the other thing I want to research more this week, because the iPhone, or this month, is because the iPhone, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are going to be released this month. But as we thought, there's going to be a little bit of a delay for the iPhone 10. We can pre-order it on the 27th of October, and it'll ship starting on the 3rd, November 3rd. So I've got a little bit more time to mull things over regarding the phone, but I want to look into augmented reality. I want to look into, how much can I do with my current iPhone 7 Plus, because I am genuinely interested in both the gaming and non-gaming uses of augmented reality for the phone. And it's going to work on the tablet too. So my iPad Pro, it's got 4 gigs of RAM, and it's got a nice big beautiful screen. So that's, I think, where what everyone's talking about augmented reality is that what's going to make this take off is that Apple is basically building it into iOS 11 natively for support for it. And as long as people make apps for it, you don't have to necessarily buy new hardware. So a lot of this augmented reality stuff should work on devices that people already own. Current iPads, current iPhones. And of course, you're going to get better performance and better benefits with the 8 and 10, the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 series. But supposedly, like, if you have, I think, at least like a 6 or 7 series, you're still going to be able to do some augmented reality stuff. And I should back up a little bit for those, I've been throwing a couple terms out there, but augmented reality, I've talked about virtual reality. You've seen me do virtual reality videos in the past, where you're locked off in your own environment, you're putting a headset over your face, and you are immersed in whatever you're looking at, be it a game, be it an experience, or whatever. Augmented reality, of course, is basically putting virtual items into the real world, So when I was talking about like the baseball thing of like, I'm looking at the real baseball field, but I'm overlaying some stats. Or if I'm playing a game, like I'm wandering through my house, but as I'm walking, I see zombies appearing in the real world through my phone's screen or my tablet's screen, that kind of a thing. So that's, augmented reality. And I think both augmented and virtual reality have a lot of really interesting, really intriguing uses. And I definitely, I've had a chance to obviously play with VR a bit, but I am really interested in the potential of augmented reality as well. So definitely look forward to some impressions on that. As for impressions for the new iPhone 10, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get one. I'm still mulling that over. I'm going to do a little bit more research on what is needed for augmented reality, some of the gestures, some of the concepts of switching from how we do things with a physical home button to the gestures. Again, I'm not worried about accessibility per se, but it's possible. I am legitly weak-willed when it comes to new technology. Like, I'm a nerd. I love exploring this stuff. Like, I wanted to explore virtual reality accessibility and just for VR in general, not even accessibility, but just the idea of virtual reality fascinates me. I like playing with new phones. I like playing with new gadgets. And God, OLED screens, man, I tell you, if you have low vision or if you have some vision, OLED screens are really, really hot. They're great. So I'm not going to say no. I could be weak in the future and be like, yeah, okay, I guess I apparently gotta, I might have to get an iPhone 10. I don't know. But the way it looks right now, is I think I am more than likely going to consider purchasing a cellular third generation Apple Watch. I think the time has finally come where there's a tipping point of interest to me to where I am interested enough to really plunk down a few $100 for a smartwatch. I think I'm almost finally ready to give it a shot. As we are this is one of the coolest parts of the building. I just have to stop and mention this because I love this part of like, we've gone through the courthouse, we've gone through the police station so far in this tower, but like, this is where the prisoners would come up, and you're let in, you got to go, get your stuff, you got to go delousing or whatever, you go over there, and then, you got your offices over there, but as they come in, so they go through there, they come out here, and I love just this weird inspiration. I had this open space as part of the courtyard on top of where there's other parts of the prison for like the interview or the visitor rooms and the place down to the prison for the staff. But you walk out as a prisoner, you walk in under this archway, and you see this giant burning cross, like this, or like this lava cross thing of like, you're gonna learn some values, you know. Like I had the inspiration from like the Shawshank Redemption, you know. The guy was like, you're gonna read the Bible and you're gonna be, you know, you're gonna be right. And so you're just walking over, and you don't see it when you're back here, but as you come underneath this archway, that's the first thing you see, in addition to the huge ceiling up there and like the 3 floors of cells. It's just a really neat design that I'm really proud how well that worked out. Sorry, I just had to mention that part of the prison, because I really like the design of this. But yeah, I think we're gonna pretty much wrap it up there as far as the iPhone 10. I don't know if I'm going to be bringing you more coverage on that this year or not. Part of me kind of wants to wait to do another year that. But the other thing is I am eligible technically, because the last couple of years I have just purchased the phones outright. Mainly because at the time I didn't want to lose my old unlimited data plan. And if I upgraded, I would have to forfeit that. And as much as I'm a data fiend, I feel like I have to, I want to keep unlimited. But then they introduced these new unlimited plans, which they switched me over to a couple months ago. And they're okay. Yeah, I know they still throttle you after so many gigs, but at least it's technically it's a bigger amount. I don't really have to worry about overages, that kind of a thing. So, because I'm technically eligible, I don't know, maybe I might get one. I don't know. But it is not out of the realm of possibility. I am weak-willed when it comes to technology. I'm a nerd, and I kind of want an OLED screen. I'm not gonna lie, kind of do. So, I think that's really about it. Like I said, there's, the Apple Watch, the iPad, or not the iPad, the Apple Watch. Actually, they didn't mention the iPad at all. They did on WWDC, but they really didn't mention the iPad at all either, or the Mac. So, you got the Apple TV, you've got the Apple Watch, and the 3 versions of the iPhone. So, yeah, there's still a lot of interesting stuff to look forward to if you are in the Apple ecosystem and you want to. Why are there bats in my movie theater? Okay. Whatever. Sure, whatever. Call it atmosphere, I guess. I don't know. Here's your movie theater. There's a bunch of these in here. This turned out really well, too. My casino, theater, hotel building. I love this building. But yeah, your Apple TV is going to be the similar price, like your $179 or whatever. Your Apple Watch is going to be $250 for the Generation 1, $329 or $399 for the Series 3, depending on whether you want LTE or not. And then you've got your iPhone 8 and 8 Plus starting at, was it like $649 and $749, give or take? Oh, the other thing that I at least appreciate, they're finally realizing that people actually use data and need to store things on their phone. They're dropping the 32 iteration and the intro storage option for the iPhone 8 series is 64 gig, and they're jumping up to 256. They're like, yeah, no, screw it. Getting rid of the 32 altogether, and I'd say about bloody time. They clung to that 16 intro for way too long. I've heard way too many people go, well, I bought the 16 because it was cheap, but now I can't download apps because I don't have any storage. Well, yeah, it's 16 gig. There's not much you can do with that on these things. So I'm glad to see them wisening up to that finally and just starting entry level of 64. And then your iPhone, like I said, your iPhone 10 is going to run you about $1,000 for the minimum, and about 1,200 or so, or what was it, like 12 something. And then of course you got to remember your taxes and Apple Pay if you want to do anything like that. But yeah, it's not going to be pretty on the old wallet this year. If I end up getting a new phone and a watch, oh boy, there's a couple grand right down the crapper right there. So we'll see what happens, but more than likely, unless something really, really changes my mind, I think you can probably expect a hardware review for the Apple Watch and possibly the phone later this year. And the one thing I didn't mention for the phones is they are finally doing wireless charging. So I know the people have been wanting that for a while. Android's done it for a while, but they're supporting this. They call it Qi standard, and so I guess I don't know much about wireless charging because I don't have anything that does that. But I know that Qi is supposed to be a pretty good standard for that, and so if they're going to support that, they can do third-party wireless charging already. And then next year they're going to be doing this, what is it? Oh, what do they call it? Something power. Like, why? I forget what, something power. But basically next year they're going to have this little slab where you can slap down if you're really into Apple stuff. You can charge your phone, your watch, and your AirPods all on one little slab. So you just dump stuff. You just dump everything on your little tab, and there you go. So yeah, I don't know. Wireless charging might be kind of neat. We'll see. But yeah, I think truly now that I just kind of was stalling because I wanted to take you through this hotel, because I'm this casino, hotel, theater building to wrap things up because I'm proud of it. But yeah, like I said, definitely go check out my other Minecraft videos if you definitely want to see more and hear about how I did some of this stuff and get a closer look. I didn't go into a lot of the rooms and stuff here, so there's a lot of neat stuff that I built, and some of Jawbreaker stuff is just amazing to look at. So check those out. Again, a lot of stuff coming up to the channel. I don't say this very often, but definitely share the channel, share the link to the video, the channel. Like and subscribe, as it were. Check me out on Blind Bargains Cast 113, all about VR and gaming and all kinds of good stuff there. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. Let's see if we can get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year on the channel. That'd be pretty fantastic. That'd be pretty awesome. And join the Steam group. It's not really taking off, but I've gotten a couple members now. So there is an illegally cited Steam group, complete with curator, some curator stuff. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it helpful. And like I said, look for more stuff. I'm going to try to cover, there's an upcoming Microsoft event in October. Google will probably have something again, who knows. I'm not going to just cover Apple. I will try to talk about the other stuff as well. So if you're interested in those things, I will be back for that. Look for some more hardware reviews as I inevitably cave and probably get new hardware. So yeah, just check out all those things at Twitter at BGFH79, the Steam group, the podcast, Blind Bargains Podcast 113, and all the other stuff on the channel. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, I will talk to you guys again later.